So in the last video, we looked at ArrayList, and what we're going to do in this video is kind of build upon that. What we're going to do is we're going to create a list or an array list of user objects. So how do we do that? So right now you can see I have Android Studio and the emulator opened up. This is just a basic activity. There's really not much to it. You can hold down the command key, click on main activity. You can see the layout here. There's really there's not a whole lot going on. So let's do some stuff. So up at the top, and we're in main activity, so you go over to the left, click on Android, open up Java, and the first package name, not one of the test ones, it's not Android test and not test, but just the first one without test, and main activity is there. So let's create something. Let's create a private, array list. And before what we did, oh, and I have auto imports turned on, so if you noticed, it automatically pulled that in for me. If you don't have auto imports turned on, figure it out, or leave a comment below. And I actually have another video on how to do that. It's pretty simple, but that's turned on. But before we looked at string, let's name this users. So we did this before. We're familiar with using a list of strings, which is names and job titles or whatever. So we could come down here and do users equals new array list, like that. Then we can do musers.add, and we can add Daniel. Musers. So here, this is what we did kind of in the last video, but I want to get rid of that. I want to change it up a little bit. Instead of holding a string, let's create a new object, and we'll create the object in just a second. But let's type user. So there it is, user. And we're going to need to create that, but let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and create the user object first. So one way to do it is you can go over to Java, right click on this and go to new Java class and name it user. You can also just put your mouse over it and do option enter, and that'll create it for you as well. But just to show you, that's how you create the user. So what are the users going to be? Let's see users. Let's be string name and private string and job title. So we have job, we have name and job title. Now there's a couple things we need to do. I'm going to go down a couple and hit Control Enter. Constructor will be highlighted by default. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to press shift down arrow to select all of them, both name and job title. I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to generate an object for us. So if we go back to here, you can see this now doesn't give us an error. So we have a private, which means only inside of here can you access it. But I want a list of users. And what do the users have? Hold down the command key on your Mac, click on user, and here it is. It goes right directly to it. So you have a string name, string job title. Let's go down here and do something else. Control enter, type getters and setters, and there we go. Hit enter, and I'm going to hold down shift and down arrow. That'll select both mname and mjob title. And I have something special in the settings where it actually gets rid of that m. If you need help, leave a comment. But so I'm going to click OK. And it just created a bunch of getters and setters for us. So we started out with an empty user. We added name, job title. We added a constructor where the constructor says, so the way we're going to use it is we're going to do like this. User equals new user. And then we pass in something here, Dan. So that's how you use the object. So that's a perfectly valid, and we're not going to use that, so I'll just get rid of that. So go back to the user. We have the constructor there, and the constructor is basically just a method with the same name as the class. So see public class, the class name is user. Well, the public user, that's basically saying that's the constructor because it matches this, it has the same name as the class name. And then we have get job title, it just returns job title, set name, get name. So let's go back to main activity and let's do this. Let's do musers equals new. First we have to set up the array list. So array list, and we can just set it up like that. musers.add. Let's add. So before we could just add something like that, but that's not going to work because if we want that to work, we'd have to do string like that. and that would get rid of the error. But instead of a string, we want an actual user. We want this user object that we just built. So how do we do that? We need to use the new keyword. So new user, then it'll tell us what it takes. So Dan, and Android developer. And we can do this a lot of times. Mel, iOS developer, Deb, web developer. So we have, I'm gonna go ahead and do Control R to run this, and this should run without any issues. It should open up, and there it is. But let's do something. Let's go down here. Actually, first, let's go up to the top. Log T, just type log T, hit enter, hit enter again, and that'll create a tag variable for us that we can use. So let's go down here and do log D. That'll create that for us. Let's see, user. We'll use the plus sign, and then we'll do musers.get. We'll just go ahead and we'll go ahead and pass in 0, but you can pass in 0, 1, or 2 in this case. 0 would be Dan, 1 would be Mel, 2 would be Deb, because it's counting and starts at 0. But let's also do get name. So we have access to that get. So you see how it automatically hinted it to us. So just type the dot, and it'll tell you we have get name and get job title. So let's just get name. How about? And let's go ahead and run it. That'll run in the emulator. I'm going to go down here and open up Android Monitor, and we type out, what do we name it? Main activity. See, we have user Dan. So say we wanted to do something kind of like this, but we wanted to use a list, and we'll get into Recycler View later, where you can display lists of data. We'll get into that later. Let's see, let's do for I. That's good. And for I will automatically set this up for you. So I just did for I, hit enter. It'll take me here. I can do musers.size. That'll basically say, so set up the start at 0. Then we have a semicolon that separates it. That's the first part. The second part is how long you want it to keep going. And this is what you want to do every single time it goes from here down to here. So it'll increase I by 1. So 0, 1, 2. So that's good for that. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Let's see. Let's do log D again. User. Let's do muser.get. We're going to pass in, instead of passing in 0 or 1, instead of passing in 0 or 1 or 2, what we're going to do is we're going to pass in I. Because I is going to start at 0, and it's going to go up every time. So it'll go from 0, 1, 2, and then it'll stop. But let's do one more thing. Let's do get name. So let's save that and run it, and come down here to the Android Monitor, and there it is. So there's Dan, there's Mel, and there's Deb. So say we want to do one more thing. Let's do musers.get I.get job title. So kind of long there. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this down, save it. No, actually it's not. I'll just keep it all on one line. Save it and run it, and it should run in the background. And here we go. So Dan is an Android developer, Mel is an iOS developer, and Deb is a web developer. So that's kind of the basics of creating an array list. Again, we make it private, so it's only available between that and that and that right there. We call it array list, and instead of a string, we want a user. And if we hold down the command key and click on that, that'll take us into user. We have some variables set up, so we have a name and a job title. We have what's called a constructor. Constructor is a special method. It shares the same name as the class name, so the class is called user there. The method is called user there. It'll be called whenever we use the new keyword. So when we use the new user keyword, it'll go to the constructor and say, hey, we need a string of a name and a string of a job title. And it's going to set the variables mName and mJobTitle to what they should be. We can then use getters and setters like setName, getName. In this case, we're not using setName because we're setting it during the constructor here, if that makes sense. Let's see what else. Then we go back, we create new array list. Then we use the add method on mUsers to add new people. So hopefully that'll get you started, building lists. And we'll build Recycler View in a future lesson where we basically can list a bunch of data, and we can use it from a web API or something like that, a RESTful API. and we can set it up where it'll display a list of data, kind of like Facebook news feed or Twitter or whatever. So hopefully you'll learn something in this. If you want more videos, let me know. If you want me to talk about something specific, or if you have a specific question, just let me know and I can make a video for you. Okay, bye.